Welcome to Horns Up. I'm Animesh.
And I'm Peter.
And on this episode, marking their second visit on the pod, it's our brothers from India's very own heavy metal band, Albatross. They were one of the last episodes we recorded in person back in February last year, before everything went to shit. Welcome back, guys, and before we begin, mind introducing yourselves so that listeners can identify you by your unique individual voices.
This is Riju Dasgupta. You may know me better as Dr Hex if you like Albatross or not. But yeah.
Yes, so I am Bipro. I am the vocalist of Albatross and hater of all things Coldplay.
So, we're chatting with Albatross today because their latest single, which is their first in 3 years, it's called Neptune Murders, and it was released on the 16th of June, 2021. So, first of all, congratulations, guys. And now that that's in the past, Albatross, are you happy with the way the song has been received so far?
I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm sure when Riju would have a thing or two to say about it. But yes, I'm absolutely, I'm very, very pleased with the way it has been, the song has been received, the kind of comments we've been getting. Firstly, I love the song. If I may dare say so. I love the production. I mean, I'm so happy we are back to working with Ashwin, and he last worked with us on Fear from the Skies, and that was he did some phenomenal work there. And I truly believe that he understands what we want, and so that's kind of half the battle won when when the production is top notch, and especially with the challenges that we faced. With most part of the song has been done, recorded at home. The boys did their bits. It's only the vocals and Akash's parts that we actually went to Ashwin's place, and we did that there. So considering all of that, I think what we put out is something, a quality product, and the fact that people loved it, wow, works for me. Riju?
I would say I am happy with everything Vipro has said so far. I'm not happy with the amount of people we have been able to reach, because before this, we were on Transcending Obscurity or Demon Stealer Records or something like that, which came with a ready-made audience. So this has made us realize how spoiled we were, in a sense, that we had a ready-made audience that we reached across to, which is why, obviously we love talking to the two of you, but we want to do as many media appearances as possible to get the word out to as many people as possible. Shout out to Sound in Store, or an ex-colleague of mine, Schubert, who's been going the extra mile to get our music heard. I have been saying this for the longest time. I am not. I'm glad that Animesh is on this chat, because he's less tech savvy than I am, and less this thing on social media, active on social media than me. But the greatest challenge now is to figure out how to reach more people through social media. I'm not on Instagram. I don't know how all of that works.
Believe me, I completely understand where you're coming from. And thanks for talking to us, because I hope this podcast is heard by more than just the four of us and get the song heard by many more. So let's just get to it, right? Let's first hear the song in entirety. Bipro, why don't you introduce the song the way you would do it live?
All right, this next song that you're going to hear is called The Neptune Murders. We wrote this back in at a time when everything was okay with the world. Clearly, things have changed, and that's all I can talk about it. Listen to it, and later tell us what you think of it. People who are listening to it for the first time, we love it. You tell us what you think of the Neptune Murders.
Row your boat gently as they scream, sacrifice them
that was Neptune Murders by Albatross. It's right now streaming on all platforms, whichever one, including Spotify. Yeah.
Including TikTok, dude.
Oh yeah, including TikTok and Instagram. I forgot
If
about
you
that.
can't stop talking about the fact that we are on TikTok, the song is on TikTok. And it's incredible. The app is banned in India, so at least you get some listens from outside the country.
Sure. And it's also accompanied by an excellent animated video that you can also watch on YouTube. So now that we've heard the song, Albatross, are you ready for the breakdown?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So, how does an Albatross song begin life? I'm assuming it starts life as a story.
It in this case it did. So again, what we did is, so one of the issues that I tried to address is, I mean, when you're talking about a horror story, everything until now has been very linear. So in this particular case, what I did is I wrote 3 different short stories, and I was like, what if part 2 comes out first? Okay, so then I explained the concept to Vignesh and Akash. Vignesh came up with the bulk of the story. Akash did his value addition parts and everything. That's about it. And I think the whole idea of row your boat. I mean, the seed of the idea came to me, but Bipro took it into a much darker place. Like I wanted a very childish row your boat type of thing, but Bipro took it to a much darker place, which I like a lot better. And yeah, man, that's about it. Unlike other times, every part was recorded separately. So this was the first time that we all actually had the bandwidth to revisit everything that we are doing and make amendments. People were calling each other up and saying, this is not working, this is not working. I got a lot of feedback on my bass parts. Usually it's just me and the producer. So this time Akash called and he said, I don't like this. This sounds like John Mayang. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know John Mayang was sounding like John Mayang is a bad thing, but yeah, that's what he said. So I tried not to sound like John Mayang. And yeah, he liked it after that.
Riju's bass work is something, I mean, I can't stop talking about, I can't stop raving about. Because that is one thing that I have always found, I wouldn't say lacking, but there was, uh, when I place, while I shouldn't be, but since it's what I call a cousin band, when I listen to a primitive song and then I listen to Albatross, and I would always find something, a punch lacking, it was always as if Albatross is just all about the first benchers in a class working out an algebra equation, coming to the right solution. It's about that, doing it textbook. While Primitive was, I mean, that's how I picture the two bands. And Primitive was all about the bad boys having a lot of fun at the back, at the back of the class. And somehow, I I still think so. I don't think Neptune Murders has got that badassery of a lot of Primitive or a Taurus. But somewhere Riju's bass work on this particular song packs so much of a punch, and I think that's his new basses that he started buying all of a sudden. That's doing all the magic, but it delivered a certain punch that I always thought was lacking in Albatross's songs, and I really, like I said, I can't stop raving about that.
Excellent. It's nice that you're talking about the bass. I really appreciate that. But we'll be talking more about the bass a bit later.
Yeah. So, Riju, since you come up with the concepts for most of the songs, right? I must ask you, what inspired the Neptune Murders?
There are so many influences that came into this. Okay, I'm glad this is a podcast and you said that we have time, so I'm going to delve into everything.
Of course.
Right. So we were on tour with Primitive, and that is when Mark Shelton from Manila Road passed away. And that got us thinking. I mean, when you're on the road with Primitive, I mean, it's like, Kiran and Raj and Pushkar, who are never serious. But I saw them introspective for the first time because, I mean, obviously Mark Shelton is not very close to them. but it was a line of losses. I mean, it started with Chris Cornell, who they idolized, Chester Bennington, and all of these guys, and we are like, what kind of era are we entering? That is also when the Bohemian Rhapsody movie kind of came out, and one of the things. So we had that. How do I say this? Uh, on the one hand, we had these depressing things, and on the other hand, Bohemian Rhapsody was the story of a man with a terminal illness who was approaching his last moments with almost a kind of vitality, kind of joy, and everything. So I had this idea to pay tribute to Mark Shelton by saying this. So the trilogy was supposed to be called Fear from the Sea, a successor to Fear from the Skies. Okay.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that is what was supposed to happen. The idea, it all stemmed from the idea of these are the last moments in Atlantis. The king of Atlantis sees waves rising all around him, coming to consume him. And in those dying moments, instead of feeling scared, he's very happy. He's elated. He says, "Rise from the sea, Lord of the Deep." That's how it all begins. Okay, there's a short story about this which travels through time, which brings us to the Neptune Murders. The Neptune Murders is somebody who finds this story, uh, treats it as a religious text, and thinks that this is a doctrine from, I mean, Neptune. And he thinks that it's his job to offer dead women, and yeah. So in a sense, it's like in every case, every war so far has been somebody interpreting religious text in the wrong manner, right? So he interprets a religious text in this wrong way. The only problem here is this guy has a fetish for pulling cheeks. Okay, and that is how he kills his women. And he has a trophy collection where like all the cheeks are stored. So yeah. So part two. So this is what I mean. Part two came first. Part one came last, and part one will come next, hopefully, and part three will come after that.
Serious
Ooh.
memento stuff.
Yeah.
There's also this Chuck Palahniuk novel, right? Like which begins from the end, and yeah.
The pulling cheeks part was the one thing that really got my goat when we first started discussing this. And I couldn't for the love of me understand why does he have to pull cheeks? He can do 1,000 other things, but he wants to pull cheeks. I mean, I don't know. I mean, eventually it turned out, it was okay. It turned out well. And I mean, all credit to Riju to make something like pinching cheeks sound very sinister. So I'm glad that happened. But there's always something, one little part in an Albatross song that always makes me very uncomfortable and want to laugh. I find it very corny. So pulling cheeks was one in Neptune Murders. Back in the day, in during the Kissing Flies, there's in one of the songs there's this one reference to contact lenses, and I find that very, very weird. Here's somebody who's talking about a rundown town and everything, and suddenly you're talking about contact lenses. When we released Sheep, and I did, and the Sheep song, I really I fought and I said, listen, this is not passing. This not under my watch. There was a line about mutton, and I said that is not happening.
No, but Animesh will relate to this. I mean, this is something Paul Heyman said. Paul Heyman said that suppose you're in a room and Megan Fox walks into the room, what happens? Everyone turns back to notice her, right? But what if it's a room filled with Megan Foxes and someone ordinarily looking walks into the room? You wouldn't look at the remaining Megan Foxes, you would look at the ordinary person in that case, right? So, when something is heading in a certain kind of direction, I like to inject some element of something funny. And not everyone always catches it, but for example, Ninad Kavle, I mean, shout out to him. Some of you know him, formerly of Human Abstract. There's a line in Juggle the Clown, which is "Giddy up, little boy," which is a line taken from Seinfeld. That's something Kramer keeps saying, "Giddy up," like something like that. So
That's where it came from.
And that there's so much more to a 5 minute, 6 minute song that we write. And so I've always been in favor of actually putting out the stories that we write, because I somehow feel that the songs that we put out do not quite uh, do justice to the original story. I remember when I first read the Kissing Fly story, I was actually, I wouldn't say scared is a bit of an exaggeration, but I was very excited. I love reading horror stories. I love watching horror movies, and I was very, very excited when I first read the actual Kissing Fly story. And somewhere I felt that it didn't quite translate into what the actual story was when we put the songs out. So I've always been in favor of putting out more than just lyrics and songs, putting the actual story out in some form, in a form of book or something, which I thought Hanek Mall did that fantastically well. Maybe I always wanted to do something like that with Albatross. With this song, I'm glad we did the video, and much before the video came into being, and we even discussed the idea of a music video. We had this kind of imagery in our head that if we have to, when we put out merch or when we put out artwork, this is how it needs to look. Needs to look like a comic book, And again, kudos. Varun did a terrific job. Before that, Vineet started it. He couldn't finish the project, so he did the groundwork. So Vineet put it exactly how we wanted it. We wanted that comic book kind of a format, and Varun eventually just drew out the whole thing so well. I'm glad we I would say we moved a step forward in our music making a process, that when we actually put the story out, if this is what is going on in our heads, and somewhere if we ever put a more polished effort out, when we put together a few songs, put an album out, an EP out, I would really love to see this translate into a book or something, something collectible, where you can actually go through this, read the story, understand how twisted this man you're speaking to is. He's not just about the jokes. He's a fucking twisted man.
The twisted man is Riju, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad you clarified.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So obviously it begins life as a story, right? So does the story or the content end up dictating the form as such of the song? And if yes, then can you illustrate that with context to the Neptune Murders itself? How did the story dictate the form of the song?
So I mean, there's always been an emphasis on not having a verse and chorus kind of structure, okay, in our songs. But I love choruses. So how do we settle both of these problems? So in this particular case, what we decided was we end the song with a big chorus. The chorus does not come in the middle of the song; it comes at the end of the song. And I mean, again, all of this comes from conversations that I've had with different people. Which is a tragedy. I don't get to speak too much metal these days. It's just because of my day job. But Nikhil Jaisinghani, a big fan of Albatross, a good friend of ours, he kept pushing me to listen to a ghost song called Monstrous Claw. And the song ends with this huge chorus.
Yeah.
Come together.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Together as one, come together.
For Lucifer's son.
For Lucifer's son.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Excellent song.
So, and this is what we wanted to recreate. So this was the first time I wasn't there for an Albatross recording session. So Bipro and Ashwin, they sent me the first draft, or let's say, of the recording, okay, once everything was done. And they made a fantastic chorus there. I mean, it was great. I kept saying, like, let's make it grander, let's make it grander, let's make it grander, to the point where I sent them this reference. I'm like, rip this song off. And this is how we make this song grander. But that is what we worked towards. Vignesh came up with that earworm kind of riff, but it was all working towards like a crescendo, which was the final chorus at the end.
And that final chorus actually happened at the very last minute, like he said. So I, for my part, I thought we are done. I mean, I was the last. The vocals was the last thing that we did, and we wrapped up the song. And I'm ready to pack my bags, and leave the studio. And that's when Riju just says, "Okay, no, 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 no. This needs something more." And then he sends us the ghost song. I still can't seem to understand what more can we do with this. And it was so last minute. It was actually just wrapped up in. So after he sent the song, Ashwin heard it. He made me listen to the song, and I still didn't get the point, but I just threw in a few things, and wow, it just worked. It worked for Riju. It worked for us then. And also, to add, I think Riju briefly touched upon it. So when he started with the first lines of the song, "Row, row, row your boat," it's of course taken from a nursery rhyme kind of a thing, and he wanted that kind of an effect, which I wasn't very comfortable with. Especially after the whole pulling cheeks thing, I said, this, because this song needs to be a lot darker. And that's a beautiful part of the Albatross songwriting process. It's very, very democratic. I mean, everybody is free to come with their own thoughts. Of course, Riju puts the final stamp of approval, but I wanted it to be dark. And I actually remember we were writing this at Benchmark, and I listened to a lot of Iced Earth, and I made everybody listen to Damien except for Riju and me. I don't think anybody else listens to Iced Earth in the band. Uh, I played Damien for the boys, and and while I was making that vocal melody and I'm thinking how to make it darker, I had Damien on my mind. The way Damien starts. If we could have put in that grand effect to it, that would have been another level altogether. But Damien was playing in my head when I thought of that whole thing. Part.
All right. So you briefly touched upon the songwriting. How do you guys generally write, though? I mean, what comes first? The riffs, the drums? What sections come in? Or everything kind of you'll jam it out, like you're saying?
Yeah, anyone can come up with an idea. I mean, that's how it all begins. For example, I remember you brought up the drums. I mean, it doesn't usually begin with the drums, but there's a song called "In the Lair of Dr. Hex," which began with one of Jay's drum rolls. So anyone can pretty much come in with an idea. We all build on it, and that's how it starts. In this particular case, it was that very catchy, very unforgettable type. What do you call it? Riffs that Vignesh came up with. It's still probably my favorite thing, and this is again quite funny. And I mean, this is what I tell everybody. Let's write our "We Will Rock You." Okay, and yeah, I mean, I'm like, our reach is already like shit, and so let's write our "We Will Rock You" and like get one hit, and then we'll write all the songs that we want to.
Matlab
And
sell out, huh? Just sell out.
yeah, sell out. But this is our version of selling out. Okay, like this song is. So I'm like, okay, so if Albatross had to write, and even Nitin used to say this, like you have to grab the audience in the first 30 seconds, or the audience logs out. I mean, he was in Radio City, right? So I mean,
Of course, yeah.
yeah. So these are like statistics that he would bring to us. So I'm like, how do we capture the audience says attention right away? This doesn't sound like a very sellout kind of song, but I think the objective at the beginning was to sell out.
Okay. So, since you said that it was a bunch of riffs that Vignesh came up with, what's his process like? Do you guys just end up with this bank of riffs, or does he like structure the entire song, or at least the base idea of what he's going for, and send it across to you?
This happened in person. All of this happened like before lockdown happened, because I remember the two of you were at Control on Delete when we debuted this song. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, so this happened in the months leading up to it. He came up with the riffs, I think, during the course of Jam. We were just messing around, tossing ideas about, and he came up with this particular idea during Jam, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's money. That's our "We Will Rock You." we'll take that and we will do something with it. And that is how the whole idea was born. Everything around there, uh, I wanted a row your boat at the start. I wanted a grand chorus in the end, but yeah. So that's how I laid out the whole thing, and that's how everything started. And obviously, Vignesh has to put in one of those progressive sounding bridges at some point. So yeah, that happened as well. Akash did a lot of I say value addition, but it made the song a lot more melodic. I mean, in the choruses, uh, uh, the chorus was at the end, but like you have between the two verses, there are different sections where he added a lot of melodic elements, and which changed the flavor of the song entirely. Even the chorus that Vipro spoke about at the end, Akash added a lead line after Vipro was done, which also added a whole new dimension to the whole thing, which I loved. Like I didn't see that coming. So
Fantastic. I like where this conversation is going to be headed.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we were there almost there, but you brought up Control Alt Delete, right? And Control Alt Delete 12 was all the way back in Feb 2020. It seems like 5 years ago at this point. But you debuted the song live then. How different is it now when you all recorded it?
Is there any difference in the song from its live debut to its recorded debut?
The lyrics are different because I know, I mean, the lyrics were not final, and I think at CAD I also mumbled a lot of parts because I couldn't remember what the fuck was written that time. So the lyrics are a lot better. And
yeah,
the
I
Akash's parts, like you said, the grand chorus, the chorus was very different. Akash's parts, the value addition that he talks about, that he brought, that's different.
yeah, Akash, I mean, he comes from who does he play with? Lalit, right?
Hmm.
So
That's it.
he comes
I don't know. One of those.
either Jatin or Lalit, like he plays with one of the two guys. But the thing is, because he comes from such a musical kind of
I'm
background,
sorry, I have to cut you guys off right there because all the metal listeners to this podcast, Jatin Lalit is a composer duo which that specializes in producing Bollywood music. Carry on. Sorry.
Okay.
Nobody
all
knows
of
who
them.
Jatin Lalit is otherwise, which is why I'm saying.
I mean, everyone has a day job, but because he comes from such a, I mean, he records more than any of us, very frankly, and so he has that unique perspective when it comes to music. And like Jay told me, I remember Jay calling me up after the whole drum process was done, and he's like, he went into the studio with a certain set of ideas, and Akash is like, no, 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 you change this, you do this, you challenge yourself here. And Jay's like, I don't think I can play that live. He's like, अरे अरे कुछ नहीं होता है आप बजा लोगे and all that. So all of that happened. Akash, even during the like I said, even when that final, I would say Vignesh, there was no change to his parts from what you heard at Control or Delete. But the rest of us, we all like worked around that entire blueprint and we changed our parts entirely. Akash, like I said, I recorded bass, I sent it across. He's like, nahi, 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 maza nahi aaya, dada, aur kuch karo. So like, we had to constantly, I had to constantly like re-record and send it to him and stuff like that. So yeah. For example, okay, so I had a lot of runs in the start of the song. Okay, I was playing a lot of runs and flashy shit, and he's like, no, no, no. So you have to build to the flashy shit. Play normally, play normally, play normally, and then there will come a point where you can just like do
Climax.
yeah, yeah, pretty much.
All right. So when do you guys feel confident enough to take a song to the studio?
It takes a while, man. Like very honestly, and I know this because when we recorded Dinner Is You, our first album, we had no ideas. We were recording in Raj's record room, and we were coming up with ideas on the fly. But ever since Vignesh and Nishit entered the band, Nishit especially, he's such a perfectionist that unless we go into the studio all set, he would be like, okay, let's not go and let's not like risk it. So yeah, I mean we used to like play a song over and over and over again for a year almost until we got it down right and all of that. To the point where So I remember the last song that we did, Where Do Sheep Disappear, that had a very different approach to this one. That was recorded live. We all recorded together, and it was much more stripped down, did not have those many vocal layers, did not have too many guitar layers either. It was very different. It was less orchestral. And for that, we used to like practice day in and day out and day in and day out and day in and day out. And if you make a mistake, I mean, Vignesh and Nishit look at you with a look of disappointment, like you've killed somebody. So yeah,
You've killed somebody, you haven't killed your parts.
yeah. Yeah.
That's something that started, like you said, with Vignesh and Nishit coming to the band. So I remember we again, Dinner Is You, Kissing Flies. A lot of it was a lot of improvisations, a lot of composing was done while in the studio. And I think looking back, when you listen to the eventual product, it shows. With Fear from the Skies, and then with Sheep, actually, not even with Fear from the Skies, with Sheep, when we were recording the song was again written a long time before we actually recorded it. So everybody knew it. I mean, to the point we were actually bored of the song. We just wanted to just go to the studio, do our stuff, wrap it up, and leave. But we were that confident about it. Similarly with Neptune, so because the song had been written for a long time back, and makes the recording process a lot easier. But at the same time, it just extends the time, between two Albatross releases.
Okay, cool. All right, so I have to get this in before we actually get into the song section by section as such, and this is about the lyrics. It's also about an interview that you guys have done with Rolling Stone India, where it's written, the story is written from the point of view of a serial killer whom Dasgupta, that's Riju, jokingly terms as a Neptune Bhakt. And Riju adds, and I quote, some lyrics would have got us cancelled, so Bipro came in and cleaned it up. End quote. So my question is, dudes, what the hell were you guys going for? Was your first draft meant to be in any way a political comment?
Yes and no. And no, that is not. We wouldn't have been cancelled by political parties, so to speak. I told them that we would have been. I don't Wipro. We would have been cancelled by women, because one of the lines is these women are weak. Okay, which I didn't mean it in, like, I am not saying it. There's a demented person saying it, but once it's on the internet, I have seen how words are twisted and turned around and everything. So you have no idea how many times we have changed lyrics like that. There's a line in Uncle Sunny at the Tavern which is no hello or hi, which sounded fine in the studio, but we come back and it's like it's so vernacular, like no hello or hi. So we changed it to no hello or I, AY in the booklet, but Bipro has sung it as I. So
This is brand new information I never knew about.
Exclusive to this podcast. Huh?
I didn't know about that. I still sing no hello hi.
Helping people understand their very own music, even better.
But so the part that Bipro came and changed was mostly the parts he had a problem with the grammar.
You
And
just referred to yourself in third person.
yeah, like
because
the
he
rock.
said that. No, you said that. Bipro came in and cleaned up. But about, yes, so there were a little slight hints at misogyny, which I still think was a bit of a little overthinking there, but you don't want to take a chance.
Yeah, I completely get you. Get what you're saying, because hey, I play in a hardcore punk band, and we are treating those lines almost on a every song basis. Anyways,
Also the bug thing, right? Like you wanted to touch upon that. No, I mean that was a joke I made offhand to Sagar during the course of our conversation. I mean, yeah, like I just said that every war is caused by somebody misinterpreting a religious text, and I have a fictional perspective on this. And so Tagat was like, "Oh, so you're bringing religion into it and all of that. So is this like a political and social commentary?" So it was an offhand joke, like I said. So yeah.
He worked you into a shoot comment there, brother.
I think Riju is the most apolitical guy around. And that is something I think we had long decided that our music is never going to take a political stand or any such thing. We are just in it for the stories and for the fun. That's it.
Well said.
We've learned so much about the Neptune murders and we've barely scratched the surface. So now let's take this a bit deeper and really break it down section by section. Are you guys ready for it?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it, Animesh.
Row, row your boat gently as they scream, sacrifice them for Neptune, who met me in a dream.
Okay, so guys, what's the challenge of using a nursery rhyme? Because the rhyme itself has a melody that's very well defined, right? And any other melody attached to those kind of lyrics just don't work.
Very good question. I will tell you what. Okay. Once you have dissociated yourself from that, once you have a melody ready on the guitar, and you're trying to retrofit the same kind of lyrics on the new melody, these are just words that you're fitting in again. This is the same with any kind of song. I would say Biprorshee should answer this one because his perspective was what made this song so unique.
I honestly don't know how to answer this question. Like I said, I spoke of what was going on in my mind when I first when I heard when I kind of got to make the melody for this. So to me, the idea was I'm thinking about the song in its entirety. I have the feel in my head, the feel that the band wants. It's going to be comfortable with, and then the rest becomes quite easy, So I knew that I wanted a very dark, eerie kind of a feel to this whole thing, and that's how it came to be.
Did you guys think of starting this off with maybe an acoustic guitar, this section?
We did. I mean, and I mean that's a conversation that has come up several times with Albatross. We cannot replicate that on stage. I mean, bringing another. We already have too many members. Pritesh is already yelling that you have too many things on stage. So, like the challenge of bringing in. Let me put it like this. Okay, you haven't seen. I have never been happy with an Albatross performance because it's always so stripped down. Like if I had my way, I would have. We have a song called "Children of the Cloud," which is about a bunch of children murdering their parents. If I had my way, I would have like a whole choir of actual children singing those parts and stuff like that. That's my vision. So I'm not happy with any of those performances. We work within our limitations, and so no acoustic guitar. I mean, we are only playing with the instruments possible. Same argument has been brought up in the case of keyboards as well. Like when and I quote Kunal Choksi, he's like, you guys are great, but you need keyboards. And I'm like, no, I mean, I don't know any keyboardists. I mean, there's a challenge of that, like, or asking Sushant Shetty if he wants to play music that he doesn't really enjoy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, but yeah, so all of that, we work within our limitations. Everything you hear is either done on vocals, guitars, bass, and drums. That's it.
So the section we just heard, what purpose does this section serve? I mean, is it a way to distance from the nursery rhyme section that introduces the song?
Yeah, it's essentially the intro of the song, man. Like I said, I mean, there are two main catchy elements to the song. There's that riff and there's that chorus at the end. So the catchiness of the initial part comes from the guitar. The catchiness of the end comes from the vocals. You either remember the riff, which will play on in your head, or you remember what Bipro's singing at the end. These are the two elements to the song. So I mean, this is a constant build-up. Okay, I know Peter asked us to keep wrestling out of it, but this is essentially two participants squaring off before the first punch lands. Okay, like this is when the crowd is getting into the whole proceedings, and now
They're finally going to start locking up.
Yes.
Right now, they're just feeling each other out.
Right, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Is it just me, or does the clean riff cycle, the section that we heard previous to this section, that introduces this section as such, does it do a slightly different riff than what's heard on the distorted parts? Is there a note that's different or so? Like, it feels like it, especially the very first part of the clean riff. I don't know. This is just a technical question.
We'll have to revisit it, man. Like, I don't play those notes, so I really haven't paid that much attention to it. But it could definitely be the case, man. Like, Vignesh likes to throw in a lot of curveballs here and there, so that could definitely be the case.
Okay, I also have to say I really enjoyed the drums here because they aren't playing a conventional beat, rather they have this element of swing and bounce that's happening, right? It's not straightforward. Hats off, because this isn't like previous Albatross songs. They were largely more on the beat and just going by what you would expect. This one is not that straightforward.
So in fact, now that we're talking about it, I'm remembering more and more details. This song, the brief that I put across, which isn't the case at the end, I mean, with the music video and the dating app and everything, but I wanted a more, 1940s Humphrey Bogart kind of detective kind of vibe. And that is the brief that I gave Vignesh. I'm like, so you come up with a riff that has that kind of swing to it. And that's what I told Jay as well. Why don't you why don't we create an atmosphere where it's almost like a heavy metal band playing a big band kind of sound, because it's also, I mean, it's a serial killer going to a bar to pick women up. So I would assume that in the 1940s you had big bands playing in such bars. Or jazz bands with the kind of jazzy swing to it.
Good. Let's continue.
So, Bipro, is there a reason why you're using two voices in this song? I mean, is it meant to be showing two different perspectives?
Very, very interesting. I mean, it's something that I answered. It's something I discussed the last time I was speaking. Riju and I was speaking to another gentleman. It starts from the previous stuff that we've done. So Uncle Sunny, for instance, was a song that was a conversation happening between two people, and obviously it needed different layers to distinguish one person from the other. And over the songs, over the next few songs that we've written, it has kind of become a little staple, that have to add a few layers to add the drama. And this Neptune Murders is, of course, not a conversation of at all. It's just that it's something that has stuck. That it just creates an atmosphere. It gives the storytelling some kind of character. But at the same time, I make it a point that I don't overdo it. and I use it only when I know that it brings a certain character to the song. For instance, when we did Sheep, Sheep didn't require any of any harsh vocal styles at all. Not that I can do a lot of it, but it didn't need me to do indulge overindulge into those styles at all. So with Neptune Murders, I just had that in my mind that let's introduce the story with a little more with a style like this, a little bit of harsh vocals, and just basically just keep it going, keep it dynamic. Let's let it not sound monotonous. That's pretty much about it. I'm not going for anything else.
Okay, lovely. There was also this excellent melody that comes in at around the 1 minute 42-second mark of the song, which is basically the third bar of the verse cycle as such. And what's great about that part is that the entire band ends up following the melody. The guitars start following it, the drums start to slightly swing towards it more, the bass line, I think, is also following it. Why was it necessary to do that?
To answer your question, I mentioned the value additions that Akash brought in. It was supposed to be very different. He brought in an additional, this was a harmony. So essentially, Vignesh wrote the blueprint to it. Akash brought in a harmony, and I think I've doubled the harmony. I think, and it just creates. It's all trial and error, man. Like you come you can approach any kind of music in a million different ways, right? At the end of the day, and you just try everything out and see what fits best. And like I said, we recorded separately, so we tried every possible combination and permutation, and this is the best possible scenario.
I also think that besides adding some kind of character to the song, a lot of this is also done at my request for my benefit, because I am not as musically gifted as these guys, the rest of the boys are, and I tend to screw up. So I always keep asking Vignesh that sometimes what happens is that I keep looking for cues, especially when we are doing a song for the first time, or the initial few times when you're playing the song live or jamming. I keep looking at Vignesh for cues. So Vignesh will say, okay, you know what? When I start doing that part, that is when you get ready to do this. So at the beginning of the song, before the vocals start, after the first two bars, you'll note that the next two bars are different. It's supposed to be. I mean, it's a part of the song, but it was also done. We could have well played the same thing for 4 bars, but it was also done so that I know exactly when to come in. So I told Vignesh, what, Vignesh, just do that thing a little differently, so I know, okay, I need to get ready now. Now it's my turn to sing. So a lot of it is also done for my benefit, so I don't screw up.
I just keep rolling. The cheeks as they scream for the
Okay, so this time around, the clean vocals also follow the harmony as well. Bipro, were you thinking of any other melodic line for the vocals there? And if so or if not, why did the vocal line need to lock in with the harmony?
Too technical a question for me, but one of the most challenging things about when I always just try to keep postponing the vocal right now, the melody writing sessions. I keep thinking, are you sure you guys are done? Do you really want me to do my bit now? Because I find it extremely difficult after an initial idea of mine is rejected. Now, not that I take it very personally, but I really can't come up with anything else. Most of what you'll hear of Albatross are things that I've come up with and have either done a stellar job to convince the boss, or have fought to keep that part in because I really couldn't come up with anything else.
Thanks for being so candid. Let's continue.
No Lord below. They'll the first crown. But no one must know this is how it must be.
Probably want to talk about the drums. I mean, it really shines in this aspect. I mean, let me start before you ask your question. Jay is so underrated, like you brought up. Even if you're playing the same parts again and again, he'll make each of the verses sound very different. He's a very intelligent person, and not just a very intelligent drummer. In that sense.
Well,
You guys seem to be very intelligent too, because yes, that kind of answers the question that we were going to set up for. Peter, why don't you set up the question in any case first?
All right. So the song moves forward, the story moves forward. But what really stands out in this section is how things are kicked into a higher gear. You've got the drums changing rhythm, raising the intensity and the perceived tempo. So what's really going on there?
That it's all building to the solo. Everything is building
Fantastic.
to the solo. And essentially that you have verse 1 and you have verse 2. I love AC/DC, but like I don't want to make music like AC/DC, for example. So the whole attempt is to make every part sound different. I mean, why should Animesh listen to this song when he could be, binging on old wrestling matches? We are competing with everything like at all times. So yeah, it's an attempt to make every section stand out. And I really think Jay does a very fantastic job, which isn't too in your face either, in that sense. So
And I completely, that was going to be my next question in any case, but you brought it up. This is all a way to just build up to what's coming next musically, right? Which is the guitar solo. Right?
It
You
is.
can't just leap into it directly. You have to warm the crowd up a bit.
absolutely.
So
Okay,
let's
so-
hear it now then.
Yep.
That's a long, almost 40-second guitar solo. Is this Vignesh or Akash? Let me confirm
Akash.
first.
It's
Akash. Okay,
it's in fact one of the few songs in which both guitarists haven't played a solo in Albatross.
Wow.
It's very interesting. I mean, I remember when I first had the idea of starting Albatross, it's well known that I wanted to emulate King Diamond and stuff. So, but one of the things that really drew my attention was that Andy LaRocque is on one side, Mike Weed is on one side. He finishes a solo, the other one picks up, the other one starts again. And obviously, I like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, but this was happening at a more frantic pace, and everyone it's happening on neoclassical scales and not everything that like Maiden and Priest and
Yeah,
everyone.
it's actually dueling guitars. Like,
It's actually
there's a
dueling
reason. Yeah, there's a reason for that word being used.
Absolutely. This was a song in which we didn't do that. I mean, I don't know if this was a conscious decision, but this was a song where we just felt that only one solo was necessary. That's why it's probably 40 seconds long.
Gods be praised. I'm going to say that. It's actually one of the shortest solos we have.
All right. So, having said that, this is Akash's first recorded solo for the band, correct?
Yes.
So, what does the solo intend to convey? And
Uh,
second is, how long did, like, while it's 40 seconds, how long did it actually take to write?
Very interesting thing. So, Akash came up with a bunch of ideas, and I don't think like most of us were very happy with them because it was just like note after note and after note and stuff. So, like I said, I mean, this is our We Will Rock You. So the key is memorability. So, like I kept telling him, like start off slow, then build into something. And the most interesting thing is So when we got him, the thing that impressed me was a cover that he did of Testament's Return to Serenity. And I'm like, so why don't you? So if you had to take the Return to Serenity solo and retrofit it into an Albatross context, like what would you do? So this is the outcome of that.
Ooh.
That little part that he does, that na 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 na
Yeah.
na. That's what one of the things that Riju was talking about. That one of the melody, the catchy thing that he brings. Otherwise, it might just sound like some mindless shredding happening there. But that part sticks, and as you play the song, that little thing is going to come back again in the chorus, and it sticks. And I love that. I absolutely love that line.
Yeah, very well said. Because it's always the melodies or the harmonies that can get stuck. Because honestly, you can't really. It's very rare for people to be able to sing along a guitar solo note by note. But those kind of sections definitely help. And also, I must say, the rhythms, bass, and drums are doing a fucking excellent job of letting the solo shine. Because it's really providing that rock solid bass as such that keeps moving the song ahead. But over here, it's very clear that the solo is the lead narrator of sorts. Cool.
And something very interesting. Can we play the end of the solo? We wanted to end it abruptly right before the bar actually ends. That is something Jay came up with, and he's like, let's not end the bar and end it right before the bar.
Let's continue. We need to talk about this interlude or breakdown. I have to ask, what came first, the drums or the guitar?
Yeah. This is, I mean, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Vignesh, but so I sent this song to Varun Singh, who used to be one of our guitarists, and he's like, oh, okay, so that is the Orion section. He plays for another band called Orion, but this could have been like one of their songs. Basically, this was the part that Vignesh is. I'm sure I'm speaking for him, but he's most proud of this part. So literally that, man, like this is the progressive part of the song, but I love how it divides the first part of the song and the second part of the song. The first part has a nice flow, then you have a lot of things happening, and then you have the grand chorus at the end. So,
Okay, cool. Okay, I just another point to add here. For this particular section, and the reason I asked about the guitars or the drums coming first is, was there any conversation about why the guitars and drums don't lock in tight as fuck? Because to me, this might have been Albatross's opportunity to pen a super heavy thrash, or hell, man, even a genty section. Did you guys think about locking it in together?
no, I mean, this is what came organically. I don't think there was a lot of thought that went into this, but no, man, this is what we came up with. It sounded ideal, and uh, I mean, it sounds like this is the part that we put the most amount of thought into, but this is probably the part we put the least amount of thought into. This is just a bridge with no vocals, and uh, this is just a what do you say? It's a It's the like for me, it's the least exciting part of the song. It divides it divides the two more exciting aspects of the song together.
Yeah, it's the part that annoys Bangalore.
I was going to say that this is the part where like Bipro gets to like sit back and breathe, take a breather for a bit. Solo ho gaya, this part hard, chalo. I have some time to breathe.
पानी पी लेता हूँ. Okay, cool. Also, a regular storytelling course will tell you that, for a story to move forward, there needs to be conflict, right? And how the conflict gets set up and resolved, well, that's how the story progresses. So, am I overthinking this, or can I interpret this section or represent that kind of conflict in terms of the song?
It is when like chaos is happening. It is right before the offering to Neptune. Okay, so now that you've brought the storytelling aspect into it, let's like picture it. This is the part, and the still is right in front of you. And unfortunately, viewers won't be able to see it. But right now, we see the serial killer with the dead body in his hand, about to dump on a moonlit night, with peals of lightning and thunder, about to dump a body into the sea. So there has to be that element of chaos before order settles in again. I wouldn't say order settling in, but chaos is building, and this is this is a wrestling term. This is the part before the finish. I mean, where the
where essentially you'll start seeing all the false finishes happening.
This is a false finish. Yes, very good. Or this is like a strong style match where both of them are trading elbows.
Yeah.
Boy. And
This is where you have to really look out for what do you call that? Energy. Fighting spirit. Where fighting spirit gets shown.
And for all the viewers, Bipro and I have kind of tuned out because I think that's
Completely.
more than enough wrestling for us.
Yep. Anyways, let's continue.
Okay, clarification first. What's the lyrics exactly? This is what I heard. Rise for the king, lord of the sea? No.
Rise
from the deep, Lord of the sea.
Okay, rise from the deep. All right. So having clarified that, there's layers upon layers that unravel, adding to the heaviness. And the song is telling you that it's reaching its peak, its climax in a way, right? Here's my question. How many takes, Bipro, did it take to nail those backing vocals and the litany of notes on the guitar?
10 minutes. And I think
Wow. Really? For both the lead as well as for the backing.
Because if you hear, again, that is Akash's genius. That's what I was talking about, that melody coming back, that part. So that was already done. And Riju's brief was very clear when he wanted that certain element to the chorus. He gave us the song to listen to.
Constance Clock.
Rest was actually all Ashwin, Ashwin kept saying, okay, we've done this. Should we add a little more? Should we add? So there's the last two lines also as preaches. That was not a part of the song. Then Ashwin said, Bipro, let's add that bit. Screech it out. Let's see how that sounds. Did it. And I did it once. Ashwin said, yeah, fine. This is great. Let's just do another take. And we had locked it. It's actually pretty simple, this part.
Nice. So this is the part you were referring to when you packed your bags and you came back and did. Awesome.
This is the ghost part. So yeah, entirely inspired by Ghost's Monstrous Clock. And basically that the first draft was very, very stripped down. And so I'm like, no, no, make it grand, make it grand, make it grand. And that is how God knows.
And that's how the song ends. Gents, I must say I found the end very abrupt, not natural. Why choose to let the song end in that manner?
Because the nature of the song is abrupt.
Okay.
The It's not supposed to make you feel comfortable. Like a horror story shouldn't make you feel comfortable. Um, Again, like I keep mentioning how intelligent Jay is. Jay decided that the whole song is on the key of E. Let's end with a B chord. Okay, completely out of the blue, it's like very jarring, and it makes you feel a little strange, like why the song.
Yeah, it
Ends.
doesn't give you a natural finish.
It doesn't give you
Screw job कर रहे हो.
It is that I mean everything is coming together. Everything is coming together. It reaches the crescendo, and then there is this odd drop. And this has been the case always, man. Like even if you go back to our old stuff, there is a lot of stuff that does not end very naturally, and that is how horror works. I mean, if everything is comfortable, then there is no point to horror, right?
Cool. All right. So that was Albatross's The Neptune Murders broken down. And now it's time to talk about the song a little bit more. Hopefully, our listeners are keeping pace and not falling asleep by now. Peter,
Okay.
go ahead.
So, we've heard all about this and we've talked to a lot of bands, but how challenging, honestly, was it to record this over the pandemic?
Oh man. So this was the first time I wasn't there for all of the sessions. Uh, I'm like, when I say this was the first time, Albatross started in 2008 as my solo project. So this was recorded in 2020. So the first time in 12 years that I wasn't present for all of the sessions where I couldn't, give my input to everything. But on the other hand, it was like learning how to record also opened my mind in a lot of ways. Um, I think everyone should learn how to record just to know all the possibilities that can arise from you recording at home. And like I said, I mean, we actually had the bandwidth to go back and change everything, which we didn't have before this at all. So I can again, like I can only speak as the bass player. That's all I did this time. But like I used to record a certain set of parts, and that was it. So this time I actually like people kept giving me feedback. I kept changing my tone. I did everything else, and uh, people were still not happy. Akash was like, "Do this." Vignesh said, "Do that," and so in a sense that also helped. Uh, yeah, and okay, this is like pulling back the curtain a little bit, but a lot of times what happens is when you pay a studio to record your song, sometimes you're struggling to record the song in the studio, which wasn't the case here because like I took my time. I only played the song for a week, and then once I was completely familiar with it, is when I started recording. So yeah, it was a blessing and a curse.
Also, the fact that Riju spent so little time and absolutely no time in the studio, I think that helped us wrap the song even more quickly.
What about you, Vipro? Because you actually went to the studio and recorded, right?
I did. I mean, I'm still not very comfortable with recording at home. I have all that I need to do so. But I'm not at all comfortable. I mean, I had the option. Riju asked me, Riju told me that, do you want to do this at home? Just finish your parts. I'm not comfortable with it, especially because I keep saying this. I've said this earlier. I'm not particularly confident about my talent. I need that's one person to constantly tell me that you're going wrong, you can do better. Riju does that. Riju used to do. Riju has done that every time we've recorded anything before this. This time it was usually Riju and Ashwin doing it. And again, Ashwin is another person who has a very very keen ear, and having worked with us for so long, he knows what the kind of stuff we go for. So I'm very glad actually that I went to the studio, and so Ashwin was there. He was pushing me. He said, "This is the part. This is how you do it," or So yeah, I can't fly solo, man. I'm a team. I'm a team member.
Amen. Yeah, amen. I'm in that same place too.
Okay, so now since you all had a bit of both, right, and you spoke about the pros and cons of recording at home and in the studio, having done that, what would you say Albatross prefers?
It's five very different individuals, man, with different.
Let's go for at least you, Riju, and you, Bipro. Come on.
Which is why we said, what does Albatross prefer?
I would honestly okay, so I loved what I did with my tone a lot. Ashwin's choices for my tones are brilliant, but I have noticed that, and this is purely from the bass player's perspective, so nothing else. I'm talking about nothing else. But I can't recreate the tones that Ashwin used to create for me, like on stage. This time, I mean, it's done entirely on my own setup and stuff like that. So, like Tech 21 goes into Music Man Cutlass bass. That's it. I know I can carry exactly the same things on stage. I'll get the exact same sound. Uh, so I prefer this. I honestly would prefer recording at home.
Setting a new precedent, are we?
Hope not, because I want everybody back in the studio. I want everybody to work together. I mean, that's me.
Both of you have spoken a lot about Ashwin Sriyan's role, right? How instrumental really was he as engineer and the man behind the boards? Also, what references did you guys share with him for the sounds you guys wanted? Like Riju, this time I'm guessing because you dialed in your tone yourself, you didn't have to do that. But what about the guitarists? This song doesn't sound like it. Obviously, it sounds a step ahead from previous Albatross recordings, right? Is that would you say that's happening because all of you as musicians have grown, or would you say that's also happening because how much Ashwin Sriyan has also grown in what he's doing?
What he charged us for the entire Year from the Skies album is what he charged us for this song. And the reason he gave was that his abilities have grown, which is definitely the case. We have all, like, at the end of the day, Ashwin is a friend of ours. We have, he has seen us live. He attempts to replicate the same thing. But when it comes to references, I mean, I remember back then, Nishit was like, "अरे Metallica जैसा आवाज दे, ठीक है, Metallica जैसा sound दे." And then this guy Ashwin was like, "तू चूतिया है क्या? तू चुप बैठ." And like that is how the conversations used to be. But I remember that the references I used to give were you Animesh spoke about the abruptness. One of the bands that I loved, which was only around for a little bit, was Hell, Andy Steve's own band, and which is I mean I hear a lot of Albatross in them. Obviously, they've never heard of us, but like I hear the same kind of if they try to create the same kind of effect that we are trying to do more often than not. And so I remember giving a lot of Hell songs to Ashwin, and basically any anti-sleep kind of recordings, because I me, Bipro, and even Jay for that matter, we can listen to like bad sounding demos, and even if our eventual output does not sounds a little shoddy in that sense, we'd be happy with it. But Ashwin is that perfectionist kind of guy who likes a very clean kind of sound. So yeah. and you go to Ashwin to get that kind of sound as well, right?
Yeah. There's, I've also worked with Ashwin a long time back, but I loved working with him because he is also a bassist. And even at that time, he makes sure that the bass gets its due. It isn't like the bout in the mix. You know what I'm saying, right, Riju?
Absolutely, man. You, what I've learned is you cannot record with a guitarist, man, because a guitarist thinks that, and I mean, guitarists are obviously. I mean, heavy metal is guitar. Let's face it, heavy metal is distorted guitar, but at the same time, it can't be only distorted guitar. And that is where, like, even for international bands, I find that the guitars are too much in the forefront. It is drowning out the vocals. It's drowning out, the bass guitar, the drums, and everything. Some of the effect is lost. I don't even. I'll be honest. I don't even listen to a lot of music with distorted guitars these days. Like, I'm just listening to like Queen and stuff like that. Host and Queen and I don't know, like Elton John thrown in there at times, and yeah, uh, because like at the end of, like, when you're done with work, like, and this is the time when I'm usually done with work, even on a weekend. I don't think I want to listen to a lot of angry music just before going to bed. I would be able to sleep. But yeah, so I'm not so in that sense. I really think that you're right. Like, a bassist brings a very unique sort of perspective into the whole thing.
This is a question we've asked you the last time also, but let's revisit it now. We're in a completely different space. Are singles the way forward for Albatross? I mean, is the decision of circumstances defining the reality versus what you guys want to do?
I really like, yes, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why, because so this comes from personal experience. This comes from Primitive. We released the album, okay, and it was well received and everything. Then there was this guy, there was this college student called Amar Shinde. He's like, I have to make a what do you call it, a music video for like one of our songs and all. So can we call Primitive down? And we went to Pune. We shot the music video. Everything happened well, and so we put the song out. And everybody, I kid you not, like, and like very established musicians as well, who own the CD, came to me and said, "Oh, we love your new sound. I love how it is different from anything on the CD." And I'm like, "This is song 3 on the CD, bro. Like, what are you even saying? People don't listen to that. People buy albums to support their friends or like to put it up somewhere. People only have an attention span of 5 minutes, I think, honestly speaking. So,
Clearly, those are the people who don't listen to Horns Up.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
100%.
deep into.
100%.
But Vipro might have a different perspective.
Yeah, I want to hear Bipro's take on this.
Not really. I agree with him, and I mean I haven't given it as much thought as he has. To me, this format works. I mean, it's like putting out a novel or a short story. I mean, I'm happy with short stories. Yeah. So Albatross, we are known to write. We are known to be storytellers. So yep. Now we are in the business of selling short stories. I'm happy with that.
Okay, so now this is again, we wrote this question without realizing that, this song was the second chapter of a story of 3 chapters. So here's the question: because the song ends abruptly, is there going to be another part of the storyline? And now you've told us 2. So what's the sequence going to be like, and when can we hear it?
Oh man, so thing is, so part 1 is completely written. Vignesh wrote the entire thing. That's a little more, now that you bring up the whole topic of recording at home and recording elsewhere, that's a little more difficult to record at home. I mean, it's a lot more challenging and stuff. So I don't know if you have to visit a studio for that. But part 3, I have the story ready. It's inspired by The Mentalist. I don't even know if anybody watched that. Animesh is nodding. Yeah.
Yep, I've seen one or 2 episodes.
It's
The
about
detective who is an actual mentalist, right, and solves crimes by basically doing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So basically, he's he uses the powers of observation to pretend that he is whatever. He has supernatural powers of gauging what is happening around him. But the thing that I found very fascinating about that whole show was that he's like his family was killed in the very first episode, before the first episode, by the serial killer called Red John, who he is chasing for around 7 seasons when the eventually the show comes to a halt. And Red John inspired a lot of the story. One of the scenes that I remember, and this spoiler warning to anybody who plans to watch the show, I think that if you've made it this far, you've probably watched the show or you don't give a fuck about the show. But
Go
there is
for
this
it.
very captivating scene in The Mentalist where Red John's girlfriend is blind. Okay, and she can, she has never seen his face. The detectives are all there, and she is talking about, what Red John is like from a blind woman's perspective. And Red John has one of those. So his whole insignia is like a smiley face that he's drawn on her wall to show that Red John was here. Now, part three is kind of inspired by that. This serial killer, he finds this old beggar woman, and he brags about like everything he's done to this woman, and we hear it from that woman's perspective. I haven't even like thought of it. Like, how will Bipro sing from the perspective of a old blind woman? That is a challenge that we'll have to figure out at some point.
Yeah.
Vipro, did you know this challenge was coming towards you?
No, I'm hearing it for the first time.
This is even better than a TikTok challenge, I tell you.
Yeah, rock in a guest vocalist.
But yeah, I mean these are things. So I'll probably have to make it an old blind man instead of a woman. I'm guessing.
So, we've talked a lot about the song, so let's try and end the conversation with a question about Albatross. Dude, has the band met since lockdown began?
I mean, I think Bipro and Akash met in the studio, right? That
That's,
is the extent of it.
that's it. In
Okay.
December, Akash and I met in the studio. That's about.
So I followed every protocol. I was hospitalized for 7 days. I went through a very rough patch in the middle. So we're just like, I'm personally just taking it like very this thing.
I was going to say that that besides pandemic, besides the lockdown, there's a lot that has happened in each of our lives, and that has also kind of put us in our own shells, and we are taking a little bit of time to come out of it. It's almost like one person gets up, the other goes down.
Yeah.
Now I'm really raring to getting together in a jam room. I really want to do more stuff, write a new song perhaps, but then we have a few problems going on with somebody else, and so the thing is, time is a luxury we can afford. We want to take it easy, let everybody come back to a headspace where we can actually put our heads together and start working together again.
Yep, I firmly believe that too. Better to be safe than to be sorry.
So-
And Peter definitely ascribes to that same philosophy, right?
Yeah, totally
Just
agree to
yesterday,
that.
I was at Riju's place and I didn't meet him.
Wow.
To pick up something, he dropped it downstairs, went there, picked it up, came back.
Wow.
Okay,
So,
cool. So, having said that, are you guys like doing weekly Zoom calls, WhatsApp group chats? How are you guys figuring out what's next for Albatross?
We haven't. I mean, I'll be very honest. Like we haven't figured that out. The biggest challenge that we will face right now is that, and I think I can say this because he's been very public about it. Vignesh has moved to the United States for good, and I mean he's very happy there. He says that he's going to spend a certain amount of time here and all of that. But honestly, I mean, if you look at Albatross as a unit, the toughest people to replace are the guitarists because I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be at a certain level. I'm not saying that for other bands you don't have to be at a certain level, but you have to learn the back catalog. You have to like also plan ahead and all of that, and you have to be of a complete. You have to be of a certain skill set, so to speak. So finding a guitarist is very difficult in those circumstances. So we're just taking it as it comes, and let's see. I mean, Kunal Choksi's dream might be realized of like a keyboard is finally being added. Like we can't find a guitarist.
And ironically, Wiley says that it's the most difficult member to replace in Albatross. That's the only member we've been replacing over the years.
I know. It's
Goes
crazy.
to show the amount of talent there is around going. I mean, although we are picky, so I think here's announcing the next Albatross guitarist audition.
Oh wow! Another exclusive on Horns Up. Huh?
You can cut this part out and put it at the beginning of the podcast.
or we'll get Riju to do like one of those radio announcements.
This was your next TikTok challenge from Albatross.
Oh yeah, there you go. Thanks so much, guys. I mean, I don't think we've spent so much time, and this is like the music nerds in animation me, right? We like to like pick every little bit and all of that. So I hope you guys enjoyed doing this as much as we did.
Absolutely. Great chat, man. But I'll tell you what, our wrestling chat is going to be longer, like the one we do.
Dude, that'll just become a bunch of stories which nobody else apart from the two of us will understand.
Yeah, you like I'll bring a pillow to that and it'll be like, record, go for it.
Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, are there any other songs that we can break down? Let us know. We're at hornsuppod.com or on Twitter at hornsuppod. I'm on Twitter at Asmoani.
I'm at Trend Crusher.
Albatross, boys. Fill in the space. Leave your social media handles and everything else.
So it's Albatross_band on Twitter.
Albatross Horror, I think, on SoundCloud.
Albatross Horror on SoundCloud. I think that's all you do, man. And beyond that, just look for us on, I don't know.
How the fuck how the fuck can people find you on TikTok? Because hey, TikTok is coming back to the country.
I haven't even looked at it, man. I'll tell you what, I mean, it's your life. You can find us on TikTok or whatever, but all of that doesn't pay. Find us on Bandcamp. Pay us $2 per song. And on YouTube.
Albatross Band India. Add that India bit or you're going to get a result.
A band from Nepal, right?
Wow, fantastic actually. You should check them out. They're really, really good. Yeah. From one Albatross to another.
Fantastic, boys. Of course, this was Horns Up.
Horns Up.
Thank you so much.